What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 55 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of talking about news or what's going on in the NBA, we're going to be talking about some potential breakout candidates for the upcoming 2026 NBA season. And just guys, we're going to be talking about stars taking that next leap. We're going to be talking about bench guys becoming starters, low minute players starting to get into rotations. We're just going to be trying to cover players that we think have the indicators or the film that suggests that they can actually take on an increased role in this upcoming season and sort of break out, if you will. Sean, we talked off screen. We both have more than 5 players, but as we go, we're going to try and narrow this down to a list of 5 players. And I just want to ask you, what are some of the things you look for, whether that's statistically or on the tape, that to you suggests this guy could be a breakout candidate?
Yeah, I think looking back at years past, I think a few indicators for me are I think there's a couple different breakouts you can have. I think you can have a volume breakout and the example is, and basically what I mean by volume breakout is the efficiency in the film suggests that you're this high caliber player, but you just haven't had the requisite volume to kind of match you being at that level. I think the perfect example of this is why I was so high on Zubac last year, heading into last season. Zubac is awesome. No PG now. Early in the season, expect a lot of touches for him with just him and Harden and no Kawhi yet. Oh, and honestly, at the beginning of the year, we didn't know when Kawhi was ever going to show back up. So that felt pretty easy for me, at least. I thought he was already a good player. It was more just give him more touches kind of thing. I think another example is honestly just younger players, maybe in a bench role, just being required to get, again, kind of like a bigger role entering the next season. But when they've had an opportunity to play in said role, they've looked good, or at least good enough to where there's flashes there, specifically young players. So for me last year, that was Max Christie. I was like, look, when Max Christie was playing the role he should be playing, he's a really freaking good role player. And for the 40 or so games that we saw before the most shocking trade in NBA history, he was a really, really good role player and became a really important starter for them. And I think there's other examples of this too. I think guards, point guards specifically, going into year 3. I think year 3 is a poor year for point guards. Year 3 or year 4, depending on your development curve. And seeing whether, okay, cool, are you a high turnover guy? Some other, I think point guard specifically, in my opinion, could go a little bit more metric based. And make sure the film still matches. So I think there's a few different indicators depending on the archetype or the player build.
Yeah, that's really well said. Nick, I can kind of bounce off that point by talking about I think there are usually specific indicators within a specific, it kind of goes archetype by archetype, but what I'm looking for with these young guys is, do you have a superpower? Essentially, if you look at a young guy, usually you can kind of see the makings of what type of player this is going to be. For example, if you look at rookie Shea's film, I recently just did a Summer League Shea video. If you watch Summer League or rookie Shea, you can very visibly see that nobody could stay in front of him. Just 2 feet in the paint at will. And it's okay, that's the superpower. Nobody can stay in front of you. Now, where can you go from there? Can you add the mid-range game? Can you add the foul drawing craft? All these other things. Can you add the playmaking? That kind of goes along, and then obviously Shea's done a perfect job of just surrounding his game with all these other things. But I look at young players, and I'm like, okay, this guy has an abnormal free throw rate for a young player. Where else can he go from here? Because the free throw rate is already a really, really good indicator. You're a rookie getting fouled 6 times a game. That's a huge deal. What else can you do? Or you're an elite 3-point shooter in year 2. Where can you go from there? Can you add more to your offensive game off the catch? Can you be more of a lead ball handler? Can you become a solid defender to be a 3-and-D type of guy? So what I always look for first is, what is your superpower? Are you really good at getting to the rim? Are you a really good shooter? Are you a really good passer? And then is there a realistic pathway to you building a more well-rounded game around that superpower? The other thing is just kind of what you talked about, opportunity. I think, for example, we're probably going to talk about somebody or maybe even multiple guys from the Pacers, and it's simply Halliburton's going to be out this year, which means other guys are going to have more of an opportunity. They're going to be forced into an increased role. They're going to have to evolve their games, and it's almost like a make or break type of thing. It's if you don't do it now, you're not going to do it. And I think that's another thing we really got to look at, like guys entering year 3 or 4, or just having more opportunity. Maybe a trade happened and now they're going to be asked to step into the starting lineup and do a little bit more. Things like that. So the things I look for are superpowers, how possible it is to build around that superpower, and then opportunity. And yeah, without further ado, I think we're ready to get into the list. So who was your first breakout candidate for the upcoming season?
All right, so I'm going to go with a guy that I really, really liked, and I'm going to try to not fall into the rabbit hole of attaching myself to previous draft takes, but a guy that I fell in love with in the 2024 draft that's been not in a weak draft class, although I think there's like just really, really good players in that class, that fell way too low in my opinion, and later got a lot of playing time in the second half of the year. It was already like his team's best passer, and that's Isaiah Collier. I think if you look at Utah's guard rotation, which currently they just traded Colin Sexton, by the way, and they got rid of Jordan Clarkson to kind of clear some room in what's becoming a very crowded and just young backcourt. Like if you look at their backcourt right now, it's Isaiah Collier, Wong Clan Jr., Keontae George. Ace is kind of a 2-3. If anything, like their wings are kind of crowded. Bryson Sabag is probably another 2-3. But going on to your point really, really quickly about superpower, Isaiah Collier is a paint touch magnet. There is nothing you can do to stop Isaiah Collier from just getting 2 feet in the paint. An explosive 2-foot driver. 31.5% of his shot attempts were at the rim last season. Shot 65% at the rim last season. And then his ability to put such elite pressure on the defense, like literally whenever he wants, opens up his playmaking game where I think it's only going to get better once he gets more reads out of pick and roll, once he gets more just used to more aggressive lead coverages, but gets downhill at will. Actually a pretty decent defender. Like I think he has the athletic profile to be a pretty solid defender as well. I think he had some good moments last season. And I think he has the coaching, he has the role players, or not even the role players, he has the guys around him. Like, I mean, why wouldn't you want to surround him with a guy like Lauri Markkanen to be your versatile offensive chess piece, a lob threat in Walker Kessler, dynamic wings that could play off of him, and guys like Ace Bailey. And I said this last year, and part of this may be a little bit going back to my last season, like preseason power rankings take, was I think for Utah's long-term success, I think he kind of has to be the guy in terms of their backcourt. I think it has to be him over Keontae. I think Walter Clayton is just going to be a really good role player for them, or like an elite backup point guard, maybe a starter somewhere. But for them specifically, I think for Utah to kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of their long-term rebuild, I think Isaiah Collier almost has to turn to that guy. And I think his downhill rim pressure, these signals of elite playmaking, had what? I think it was like 6.3 assists to 2.8 turnovers last season.
Yeah, per 75 possessions, it's actually like 9 assists.
Yeah.
Per 100 possessions, it's 11.6 assists to 5.4 turnovers. So per 75, the turnovers are pretty high. That's about 4 turnovers per 75, but it's a rookie. It's a rookie who's getting lead guard touches. So the assists, I think, are just such a good indicator.
Yeah, per 100, I forgive you already. I know you said per 75. Per 100, 11.6 assists to 5.4 turnovers. Three out of the 5 are live ball turnovers. About 2.3 are dead ball turnovers. A lot of them are, just looking at it, seem to be bad pass turnovers, which, in my opinion, is actually like correctable.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you. I think the turnovers that you want to avoid are handle-related turnovers, where it's like, I can't take the extra dribble through traffic, or once I'm met by aggressive ball pressure, I need to pick up the ball. I don't think Collier struggles with that. So bad passes, I think, are like the good turnovers, and it's like usually they're related to either just simple errors that you can fix or risk taking, which I think for a rookie, again, you're taking risks. You're figuring out what works against an NBA level defense. Yeah, I agree with you. Bad pass turnovers, I think, are a good indicator. If you're going to have turnovers, you'd rather have that than consistently losing the ball.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a handle thing. It's simply, and I think it's tying up the turnovers and just being a more consistent jump shooter. Very clearly the two things for Isaiah Collier. that need to get worked on, but I think he does have the superpower, going back to kind of that wording there. The volume isn't the problem, I don't think. Actually, wait, crap. I looked at the wrong thing. Yeah, the volume from three is a bit of a problem. Per 100 possessions, only 4.4. I thought that was per game. I was about to say, oh, per game, that's not bad. But per 100, yeah.
I think, yeah,
low.
I just think it's a jump shot in general. There's really no indication of him being an NBA level jump shooter. As a rookie, I mean, he shot, 28% on long mid-range jumpers or something like that, like 28% on long mid-range jumpers, shot 25% from three, 68% from the line. That clearly is the thing. It's like, if you can become even just a passable shooter from any level, now we're kind of cooking, because like you said, the driving, obviously there. I'd also like to see him add more of a floater. Like, that'd be a really nice counter out of drives that I think he can add. The driving, the burst, the handle, and also the strength. Like, he's one of those running back build guys that we've talked about. We're just like giant quad. You can't move him off a spot. He's moving defenders at will as a rookie. NBA level strength from day one. Consistent paint touches, consistent good decision making. Like you said, he's a willing passer and he's a good passer. And then defensively, I don't really think he's a guy who will ever be like a defensive playmaker away from the ball. Like, he's not going to be a high steal or a high block guy. But he's already like a pretty good screen navigator who can really pressure the ball at the point of attack. And for a 6'3" guard who's got the sturdiness to kind of switch if you really need him to, yeah, I think as a slashing playmaker and then a point of attack defender, there's clear utility for him just as an NBA level player. The question is, like you said, if he just becomes an NBA level jump shooter, even just passable, now we're talking about like serious lead guard potential. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Isaiah Collier is a great shot. And I was kind of hoping, you told me before the show that you had a Jazz guy, and I was hoping that would be the guy because I didn't have him. And I was like, I really want to talk about Collier because that's a guy I've thought about quite a bit for this type of topic. Actually, perfect segue for me though, because I had one of his teammates on here, a guy who's not even quietly, loudly been dominating the summer league over these past few games. I want to talk about Kyle Filipowski, who I actually think is like one of the ideal bigs you could possibly pair with a guy like Collier if the shooting is a serious concern. Quick rundown on Kyle Filipowski. This is a guy who's 21 years old, entering his second season. Like I said, absolutely dominating the summer league right now. And if you're unfamiliar with this game, the selling point is that this is just a really versatile offensive big. We're talking about a legit 7-footer who just shot 7 3-point attempts per 100 possessions at a 35% clip. So if we're talking about a guy who can pair with Collier, pick and pop, spotting up in the slot, we know Will Hardy likes to use his bigs in creative ways. This is a guy who has legitimate value as a floor spacer. But there's also more to his offensive game than just the fact that he can step out and hit the 3-point shot. He's someone who can put the ball on the floor and attack closeouts and play off the catch and just really like handle the ball as a 7-footer, which brings so much versatility. He's someone who's a good, smart off-ball mover, a really good offensive rebounder. Has a little bit of an in-between game. Like, he's got a hyper-efficient floater. He made 61% of his floaters last season, and that's just a shot you'd like to see him increase the volume on, whether that's in the pick and roll or, like I said, attacking closeouts or whatever. Serious utility in the in-between area as well as the 3-point shot. Also has a nice post game. Like, you can legitimately dump the ball to him in the post and run some offense through him in those spots. He's someone who has, like I said, the touch indicators as a good post scorer, but also generates fouls, likes to play through contact. Also a good screener. So we're talking about a guy who can just kind of, like, the way I'm describing it, I know, like, every time when I was working on a Kyle Filipowski for this episode and a potential upcoming video, as I was looking in depth on him, I kind of kept coming back to, like, this guy has a lot of the positives you like with Jokic, like the post scoring and touch indicators, the ability to screen and be dynamic as a screener, the 3-point shooting. The big difference obviously is the passing. Filipowski, I think, is a decent passer, but nothing crazy. And that kind of holds him back in terms of how much offense you can run through him. Like, he's not going to make instant decisions off the catch like a Jokic, or he's not going to, you can't really like organize an entire half-court offense around his post touches with like cutting, screening, and all that, because he's just not going to hit all of the tight windows. But that to me is like one of the only really like swing skill in offense is like how good of a decision maker and passer can he become, because you can obviously see the flashes of what he's capable of doing as a play finisher and scorer, like someone who can play out of the dunker spot, play in the post, get on the offensive glass, come off of screens, be a screener, spot up, all this stuff, like just really dynamic offensive threat. If he can improve as a passer, I think we're just talking about one of the best offensive bigs in the league. Now, the problem is, like a young Jokic, defensively, there really isn't much to be excited about, in my opinion. This is a guy who isn't quick enough on his feet to switch. He's not a vertical presence at all. Like, it's actually unfathomable how low his block numbers are. He averaged 0.7 blocks per 100 as a 7-footer, which is like, that's crazy to me. Like, this is a guy who just is not going to offer any interior resistance whatsoever. So to me, there are two things he can really work on. I think there were some nice moments of him playing at the level of screens and like doing like more mobile coverages. And if that's the case, you want to pair him with a guy like Lauri Markkanen or Walker Kessler in those kind of like double big type of lineups, because then you can put Filipowski at the level of screens in a hedge or a trap, and you have someone playing cleanup as the low man. So I think the pathway moving forward for Filipowski as a defender is like, can he really, really get good at executing those at the level coverages, and then we have a rim protector behind the play to insulate him, and then you get all of this dynamic offensive punch from him. The other thing is the defensive playmaking, because he does have decent hands and length, which to me, again, similar to Jokic, like Jokic has found a way to have like positive defensive playoff series by just simply wreaking havoc with his hands, picking up 3-4 deflections, blowing up pick and roll action by having an arm in the passing lane. So I think those are the main things. I don't think he'll ever be a great interior defender or even a good one. But if he can just become really good at executing those at the level screen coverages, defensive playmaking, now we're talking about a serious guy who's just playable defensively and then has all of that dynamic offensive punch. And in my opinion, Collier and Filipowski is a great duo moving forward if they both pan out how we kind of expect them to.
Yeah. Minor shout out, simply because this guy can never stay healthy. If we're sticking with Utah Jazz, I think Taylor Hendricks has potential to be an elite defensive player, like the athletic tools, the IQ, the physical. Yeah, he's awesome. Just basically broke his leg last season, and we didn't see him.
Like, how would you feel about a starting five moving forward of Collier, Hendricks, Bailey, Kessler, Filipowski?
That's nasty.
Like that's
good,
a lot of
good nasty.
Right, that's a lot of defensive, like,
yeah,
surrounding. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Filipowski though, as an individual player?
Yeah. I don't know why. I was looking back at my like draft notes from last year. I'm like, I don't know why I missed on him, and missed in the sense of I had to like. I thought it was good value. I didn't hate the pick for Utah. I thought it was a really good pick. It was good value, but I was just like lower on him than everybody in the cycle. It felt like last year. I had a very late first round grade on him last year.
There are some, not to cut you off, but there are some red flags. Like, I think he has a negative wingspan for his height, which for a center is like, ooh, that's not great. Also, just like really floor bound, like doesn't really have a ton of athletic pop.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like red flags. I do think when you look at a center, the first things you look for in the draft cycle are like, okay, what are you defensively? And I think that's like a lot of those guys end up like, I even look at Şengün. Like, I think a lot of people missed on Şengün just because of the fact that even 2 years ago, they were like, he'll never be a center on a competitive team because of the defensive woes. And now he's just a legitimately good defensive player.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where, if I had to guess, that's like the first thing people look at. Like, negative wingspan, no athleticism. Like, this guy can't be on the floor defensively.
So I think for me, going back to Duke, I think the biggest thing that kind of threw me off was I didn't think he played well through contact at Duke at all. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing that kind of like threw me a red flag. I was like, I thought the passing at Duke was fine, but kind of like you said, to be coming out of Duke, I felt like that's one of the main selling points, like versatile offensive scorer that can make plays like out of delay action. I'm like, okay, but he can't finish through contact, so I'm kind of like, he's fine, he's cool, but
yeah.
No, I think he's just kind of taken all that stuff that were positives, specifically to scoring, like you said, and some of the ability to be mobile at the level of the screens. It kind of just like ramped those up, and he's playing with elite confidence right now. I get it with Summer League or whatever, but if you have a year two player, this is what you want them to look like in Summer League. To play with this level of confidence, to be literally just too good for Summer League at that point. We look at that a lot for year two guys. As a matter of fact, I think the only year two guys that didn't play would have been Risacher and
Stephon Castle didn't play.
oh yeah, Castle. Like even I think Ron played. I think Edie played. I think didn't he?
I don't know if Edie played. I don't know.
That's actually a good question.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, I say all that to say, like I think last season, like you said, you saw the offensive versatility, the post up scoring, the ability to kind of attack mismatches even. But that's why with the screening and how good of a screener is and the pick and pop game, that's why I think to your point, the playmaking really elevating and becoming a swing skill for him. Like because then the amount of stuff you could do with him out of the short roll or even some playmaking stuff out of pick and pop action. Like I think Will Hardy, it maybe I don't know if this is connected for you at least, but I think one of the reasons why that I actually am high on Collier and am high on Filipowski is I do trust Will Hardy to put both of them in situations to be successful offensively specifically. So yeah, I really, really do like Filipowski. He's had an awesome summer, had a really good year one. Same with Collier, and two big pieces to what Utah hopes to not be too much longer of a rebuild here.
Yeah, and to your point on the finishing through contact, Filipowski's probably put on like 30 pounds since entering the league. So that's a big deal, and he hasn't really lost any of his mobility. Not that there was too much to begin with, but he hasn't it hasn't visibly hurt him. Like if it's only improved him to put on this weight and put on this strength. Made him a more dynamic offensive threat and more of a body on the glass, I think, too, like boxing out and things like that, establishing position. Another point to the short roll point, like the ability to attack mismatches is such a key here because we've seen it with Zubats. When teams send the low man, it's like, oh, I'm just going to seal him 10 feet out and get to my little push shot, and it's automatic. I think Filipowski has a little bit of that in this game as well. So actually, Zubats, I feel like Zubats offensively isn't a terrible comp for Filipowski, but just like with more obviously stretching the floor, more of a jump shot, things like that. I really like Filipowski. I really like Collier. Another guy who we're not going to talk about today, but I also kind of want to throw out there. I also really like Bryce Sensabaugh. So I think the Jazz
also on my list.
I think the Jazz are cooking. I think also Sensabaugh is on your list for today, or you had him like as a potential guy that we might have to go deep in the bag for.
Oh no, no, not on my actual list, but
okay, I got you. Yeah,
like a deep in the bag.
Yep, Sensabaugh was the guy that I really like. So yeah, Jazz are cooking. Who was the next guy on your list?
Oh dang, yeah, I forgot. All right, okay, cool. I'm gonna save I know what, screw it. I'm gonna go on my no duh pick, and I'm saying no duh because I feel like everybody is saying this. This is the perfect Norman Powell situation. No, not really. Let me backpedal. Is Norman Powell in the sense of player goes down or player leaves? So Paul George leaves. And, okay, cool. It is very obvious that you have to step up into this role. And kind of to your point earlier, it's either going to happen now or it's just never going to happen. And except this player is the guy that I just liked more than I liked Norman Powell last year. So I'm going to hammer the table home even more for him. That's Andrew Nembhard. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah.
And with Andrew Nembhard, it's really this simple. I think he already has established this super high floor for himself. Like, Andrew Nembhard, at the very worst, is this high quality two guard in your offense. Or, I mean, like in any situation where he'd be asked to be the backup, he'd be the best backup in the league. But this high quality two guard that so far at least, I don't even know all the way if this is the ideal scenario. Now you're gonna be able to like get the true answer to that this season. But throughout his career, and the ideal scenario is like, look, have him be your secondary ball handler, let him be a pest at the point of attack, and let him be the guy that on the second side action can just go eat with 10 seconds and be this creative shot maker and good enough playmaker. And on a somewhat versatile offensive player. But in very limited sample sizes throughout his career, we've seen these ridiculous bursts of not a leap, like really high level half court creation ability from a playmaking and setting the table, but also a scoring standpoint. I think he has, if anything, is more so the playmaking that I'm a little bit more curious about. I think there's a real scenario where like I think he can still be a high-level half-court shot creator. The biggest thing with that, the biggest swing factors with Nembhard is can he just be in the regular season? It turns into freaking Klay Thompson in the playoffs. I'm not going to say Steph, but he turns into Klay in the playoffs from 3. But in the regular season, he's basically Isaiah Collier from 3. So can he have a consistent 82 game sample size of, no, I'm a really, really good 3-point shooter. You have to respect me. And with the volume being there too, expectedly this season. I also think maybe it's just like the Thunder. I'm curious to see how he handles 82 games of ball pressure consistently, where he's not this super elite, like first step or quick burst kind of guy with the ball in his hands. But I think he's crafty enough to where it should balance itself out. So, but anyway, I love Nembhard. More touches, put the ball in his hands more. I think even if he's not this elite passer, he's a good decision maker at the very least, which again gives him this super, super high floor. But is he just going to be this super good, really reliable starter, or is he going to be a guy that can push the boundary of being an all-star caliber player? Which I love Nembhard, so for the moment, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, the thing with Nembhard that is kind of interesting is, like you said, he sort of breaks out in the playoffs every year, but then like it doesn't translate to the full 82 game season. And I wonder how much of that is like the defensive workload. Like when you have a guy who's full court pressing and doing things that like fighting over every screen, denying a guy away from the ball and chasing him everywhere, that's such a physical toll to take. And I do wonder how much of Nembhard's value is just simply related to that and how he can isolate that for 16 to 20 game stretches as opposed to 82 games. And I wonder how much of that again has to do with the shooting. Like, I don't know, it's weird because you would think when he ups the pressure, the shooting would then go down. Like that's a very consistent trend we see with on-ball defenders. Like Drew Holiday, I think, is a great example in Milwaukee. In the regular season, you'd get like 40% from 3 from him. And then when the playoffs would roll around, he'd be picking up guys half court, fighting over every screen, playing 40 minutes a game, doing everything defensively, and then he'd shoot like 30% from 3, and it's like, oh, he has no legs. It's such a simple correlation. But with Nembhard, it's the exact opposite. It's over the 82 games, he's a 29% three-point shooter, 33% three-point shooter. Then in the playoffs, now he's full court pressing and then making 45% of his threes. It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know what to do with Nembhard. I think there are obviously like red flags in terms of his utility as a lead ball handler, for one. Doesn't get to the rim a lot. Doesn't get to the line basically at all, which I think are two things that you really want to see. If he's like, yeah, if he's actually a 45% three-point shooter, I don't care if he gets to the rim or the line, but it's like you don't get to the rim or the line and you're making 30% of your threes. How much can the mid-range really carry you as an on-ball guy? Which, like, Nembhard is a very advanced mid-range game. We've talked about it all the time with the deceleration, the bumps, the touch as a jump shooter inside the arc. Really, really good mid-range scorer. Like you said, good decision maker, doesn't really turn the ball over. So you can see the making, but I do think one of those things has to really boost for him to be a legitimate, like, go-to guy in the half court. It's like, are you going to be a legitimately good pull-up three-point shooter? Are you going to get to the rim? Or are you going to get to the line? And I think, like, the way he uses his shoulders and deceleration, like, adding some foul drawing craft probably is possible. Like, I definitely think he's a guy who can get to the free throw line more, so maybe that's where you take the leap. But I do think one of those three things, and then, like you said, also I'll throw the passing in there. So I think for me, it's one of 4 things. It's, can you get to the rim more? Can you get to the line more? Can you become a legitimate volume pull-up three-point shooting threat? Or can you just be a seriously good, like, proactive playmaker? And really, the entire swing skill.
That's a good word of saying it. And the proactiveness and I'm sorry to make this a Laker conversation, but the biggest example of this is like Austin Reeves 2024 to 2025. Like 2024, very reactive playmaker. And I think Austin still has those tendencies of being kind of reactive, but he very clearly took a playmaking leap this season, pre-Luka trade. Where it's like, okay, no, he is very much proactive, going back to what you were saying.
And I think the Nembhard, like, the shell can kind of just be narrowed down into one swing skill, and it's offensive volume. Can you take on the lead point guard role, increase your touches, and produce like a lead point guard? And I think that remains to be seen. I think it's possible. I think there's been flashes. I think the biggest one is 2024 Eastern Conference Finals. Halliburton goes down, and then he averages 28 points per game against Boston in the last 2 games. I think the flashes have been there. The question is, can he apply it for a full 82 games? I really don't know. That's why I think it'll be really interesting, but definitely someone I'd consider as a candidate and someone I had like on my shorter list of potential guys we should talk about. another guy kind of in that similar like line where it's like, okay, we're entering year 5 now, I believe it is. We're entering year 5.
Nembhard's
Um,
4.
Nembhard's 4. This guy's actually year 6. He's just so young, I keep forgetting. This guy's entering year 6, 24 years old though. Um, and it's like, it's got to happen. The breakout has to happen. We kind of saw the makings of it last year.
I hope so.
Can you fully apply it at this point
I
and
think I know
have
what
that
this
sort of
is.
Deni Avdija is the guy I got.
Yeah.
I think Deni Avdija is a really, really interesting player. Obviously, the superpower is the fact that he's a big 6'9", and is just this elite jumbo creator slasher. Gets downhill at will. Maybe the best in the league, not named Giannis or Zion, at initiating contact and using his shoulders to just create driving lanes out of thin air. Really nice deceleration, slow step, can create space around the rim. Decent enough finisher to be like a legit volume scorer just as a slasher. And just a foul drawing machine because of the way he uses contact. And it's like, that's the superpower. You can get downhill with ease, generate layups and fouls. And it's like everything else. How much more is there? I think he's a good passer, legitimately good passer out of drives. But like we kind of just talked about, he's more of a reactive passer than a proactive passer. It's like I'm going into the lane with tunnel vision. I'm looking to score. And if I can't get to the rim, okay, where's my next passing outlet? And he draws enough help on those drives to consistently find like decent kickouts. But it's never a like the defense started shifting and I made this proactive skip pass or I made this proactive lob. It's always the help came. I'm already deep into the paint. Now where can I find a pass? And I think becoming a more proactive passer is the next big step for him. The biggest thing though is the in between scoring because he's got the strength, he's got the shoulder bumps, he's got the deceleration, and he's got the height. He does not have a floater. He has everything in the world you want to have in a floater, and just does not have a floater in his game. If he just becomes even decent at the floater, he's one of the best paint scorers in the league because now there's literally nothing you can do to stop him within 8 feet. He's just a freak in the paint scorer if he just has even just an okay floater. I think last season he attempted like one floater a game and made 38% of them or something like that. Like just
39%.
Not in his game. But like I said, everything you want. Like he's got the height to get it over the defender. He's got the strength and bumps to create separation. He's got the deceleration. Just add the floater and you are golden. That's the biggest thing for me. I think also the 3-point shooting really started to come around last season. That was another kind of big swing skill for him. 5 3-point attempts per game at a 36.5% clip. I'm okay with that, man. He had some nice moments as a spot up shooter. Occasionally got to the pull up 3 when defenders went under screens. I feel okay about Deni as a 3-point shooter at this point. So I really think the main big thing is the in between scoring. The other big thing is the turnovers. I think he kind of has some of the bad turnovers where he's not comfortable handling the ball through traffic, has to pick up the ball early. Because of his length and size, he can do that and still get to the rim. But you do run into ball security problems where like a guy pressures up or someone's sitting in the gaps and he just can't get to that extra dribble. That's kind of a problem. So cleaning up some of the turnovers and cleaning up the ball security a little bit feels a little bit like harder for me coming into year 6, more difficult than just adding a floater. But then also a solid defender. He's a solid defensive player who can play multiple roles on defense. He's a really good rebounder. So, yeah, I think Deni has all of the tools. I think if he just develops a little bit as an in-between scorer, becomes a little bit more proactive as a passer, and then cleans up some of the turnovers, I think we're just legitimately looking at an all-star. Like, that's an all-star in my opinion.
I think he's so close. Yeah. I think he's already so close to like being an all-star caliber player. And to your point about the shot last season, he shot he was 1.14 points per shot attempt on pull-up jumpers last season from 2 and from 3. So at this point, you're just talking about legitimately a good jump shooter, a good pull-up threat, combining that with the downhill creation. And then, yeah, like you said, you add in some of the small – he's already a really, really good offensive player. But going back to the breakout point, like you're going from elite starter to like a legitimate all-star offensive half-court creation help for your team. And then you combine that with some of the stuff that they could do with Klingen or hopefully, I mean, if you're poorly, you're hoping for a year 3 point guard Scoot Henderson breakout. And he's one of your big focal points of your half court offense, simply because, like you said, the fact that you could get basically paint touches whenever you want with Deni Avdija because of how he plays. Yeah. And then also, I mean, I don't want to have this attached to the breakout conversation or like to his player analysis, but he's like objectively on the best contract in basketball.
Yeah.
Not named Victor Wembanyama, because technically Wemby's still on his rookie deal. But he's on the best non-rookie contract in the NBA right now.
I agree. Yeah, that's a great point. And also, like, another thing that I kind of want to, like, one of the things you could point to, too, I wouldn't even consider this a swing skill, but just like a mentality shift, like realizing nobody can stop him. And we kind of started to see that in the second half of last year. Like at the beginning of the year,
he's a little bit more dog, is what you're saying. He does have that killer instinct.
Exactly. Like he still seemed like
measurable.
At the beginning of the season, he still seemed like the normal Deni Avdija. Then I think it was Milwaukee. He had the first 30-point game of his career. Then he followed that up. I could be getting the order wrong, but there was like a really big Milwaukee game and then a really big OKC game back to back. In like November or December. And then from that point on, it was just a clear mentality shift. Like, wait, these guys can't guard me. Now I'm going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this. And by March and April, he legitimately had like stretches where he looked like an all-star. So yeah, I think more application of just, I'm that guy. Like it's such bad analysis, but it really is. It matters. The aggression factor. And then also, like I said, adding a floater, becoming more proactive with your reads. There's legitimate like lead jumbo creator potential here. It's like in many ways, his game is kind of like Baby Giannis, like as an offensive player. That's kind of where I see him going. Obviously, he's not Giannis, but you know what I'm saying.
Deni Avdija is Giannis, and Kyle Filipowski is the next Jokic.
Exactly, and we're gonna be building a super team with Isaiah Collier, Deni Avdija, and Kyle Filipowski. It's going to be Giannis, Jokic, and who's Collier? Ja Morant?
Like beefier Ja Morant. That's
beefier,
insane.
Beefier Ja Morant is crazy. Okay. Who'd you? Oh yeah, Nembhard at the 2. I forgot. Nembhard and Collier, beefy backcourt duo.
Hashtag beefy backcourt.
Exactly.
Trademark pending.
Who's your third guy? Who's number 3 on your list?
Third guy. This is just a guy that I think had limited opportunity last season, but he's a guy that makes a lot of sense for kind of their current iteration of the roster. A guy that was drafted last season that was nodded as a ready-to-play type of player. And for me, that's Tristan da Silva. He just makes so much sense for this version of the Orlando Magic. And I do wish that he was getting more like consistent, not even touches, just consistent playing time last season. He did play in 74 games. He did average 7 points per game, but I want to see them lean into him a little bit more and kind of his archetype. Because in theory, man, I'm basically going from not lesser used role player to like just a really, really good rotation player to maybe even like fringe starter. I think coming out of Colorado, you saw some of the secondary playmaking. You saw the elite shooting ability. I do think even though last season he shot 34% from 3. That Magic team also just had some of the worst spacing out of any team ever. And also I do think that is at the very least a fair argument to be made that they, for half the year, they were down one of their 2 jumbo creators. And then you're also down your point guard, who's a major creator for them in Jalen Suggs. And now you're also adding now Desmond Bane. You're getting Suggs back. For the love of God, can we get Paolo and Franz healthy for the full year? So I do think it is potentially fair to argue, like, did he like have to work a little harder than you would have liked him to last season for this Magic team? Great defensive versatility, I think. 6'9", 6'8". Okay, my bad.
I think he was listed at 6'9" in the draft cycle, though.
I thought he was listed at 6'9", too. King legit guard 2 through 4, guarded 2s 28% of the time, guarded 3s 19.5% of the time, and guarded 4s 24.7% of the time. So legitimate defensive versatility for Tristan da Silva. I think the biggest things with Tristan da Silva are, one, I would like to see him be a better rebounder. I do think that's one big swing factor for him. Is I just think if you're going to lean into some of the defensive versatility and some of the stuff and the size in general, you would like to see him be a much better rebounder than he was last season. And I don't think he's this elite finisher quite yet either. But really, really good secondary playmaker. Projects, and I'm saying projects because I don't think last season he was all that great, or metrically he wasn't all that great, but projects to be this really, really good movement shooter that has real feel, that can attack off the catch and do certain things. I'm trying to see really quickly because now I think I got one part with Da Silva slightly wrong.
What would that be?
I think he's actually a good offensive rebounder. I don't think he's a good yeah. He's actually he's a good offensive rebounder. Defensive rebounder. Yeah, leaves something to be desired. But actually really good offensive rebounder. But yeah, Da Silva makes sense. I think if Orlando's gonna hit their ceiling, I think he needs to be one of the key playoff 7 guys for them. I think he needs to be their projected starting 5, then he has to be one of the first 2 off the bench.
Got you. So I really do not know much about Tristan da Silva at all. I just have not really watched him much. All I really have is the raw statistical indicators. I think the size is nice. Like you said, if he can just become a big shooter, that's obviously a huge thing. Who are some guys that you kind of compare him to? Like your ideal look at him on offense and defense, like where you can see him project, like when you talk about a breakout or becoming a top 7 guy. Who are some of the guys that you were like, okay, I can see Tristan da Silva becoming somewhat like this?
I have a name, but it's almost scared to say it because I feel like the name I have in my head just gets attached to any like good wing that's not ever going to be like a high level star or anything like that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Is it Aaron Gordon?
Oh no, not Aaron Gordon.
So that is Aaron Gordon. Every big forward gets compared to Aaron Gordon.
That's actually Aaron Gordon's actually fair. No, the guy that immediately popped out of my head as big shooter, really good feel, not this great rebounder, but like versatile enough.
Cam Johnson?
Yes, Cam Johnson was the name I went with. That was the first name that popped into my head. Honestly, I think there's a lot of comparables offensively and defensively, like especially Cam Johnson when he was at his best defensively. The versatility, again, not this insane defensive rebounder, but does enough for you defensively, whether it's guarding wings or, again, going back to the...
Right, like Cam Johnson's the most average defender ever. Like, he's just, like, passable.
Yeah.
He's going to do his job.
Yeah, basically. But then offensively, the feel, the shooting, the awareness away from the ball. Yeah. Cam Johnson's the first guy.
And I'm a huge Cam Johnson guy, so that like immediately in my brain is like, ooh, yeah, Tristan da Silva. I think Cam Johnson, the really interesting thing with him and where I kind of draw the comparison to what you were saying, like I said, I haven't watched much da Silva, so I'm kind of just taking what you're saying. So if you're wrong, I'm wrong. The way you kind of described it as like this big forward coming off of screens, making quick decisions in 2 or 3 dribbles, can get to the rim, get to the floater range, or just like make really nice decisions as a passer. That's what Cam Johnson excelled with the Nets, just coming off of pin down action, handoffs, all this movement and just getting to the paint, making quick decisions, and then of course, volume 3-point shooting. To your point, Cam Johnson wasn't an immediate like volume, like in Cam Johnson's second season, he shot 6 3-point attempts per game and made 35% of them. So if anyone's looking at Da Silva's 33.5% and saying, ooh, I don't really see I mean, obviously he might not be Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson's one of the best shooters in the planet. But just like a version of that. Almost similar to like maybe like some kind of hybrid between like McHale and Cam Johnson on offense. Like McHale was never quite that caliber of shooter, but was still a good enough shooter to come off of screens and do all that type of stuff and then be a reliable spot up guy. Okay, I hear you. Like I said, I don't really know. I can't really add much to this conversation, but I do like what you're saying. Like the way you described it as like a high feel, big forward who can come off of screens and potentially project as a movement shooter and secondary playmaker. That does sound like Cam Johnson to me. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But if it is Cam Johnson, like if that's the player, the archetype of player Da Silva is, I do agree with you. Like in staggered minutes next to Paolo or Franz. Really nice forward to have on both ends of the floor. So I like the Da Silva shout. I'm a fan of that. Was not expecting that at all. So I think that's cool. I like when there's players that we aren't really thinking about. Yeah. I think I got. Wait, go ahead.
I was just gonna say really quickly to wrap it up. I would like them to experiment with him as an off-screen player a little bit more, compared to what they did last season. But
I will say, yeah, their offense is just ridiculously stagnant.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you know, but your camera is not.
Yeah.
There we go. Sean was all the way in Narnia for a second there, and then something's flying behind him now.
A wasp has somehow got here, and now my computer is.
This dude, Sean, is struggling, man. This dude's got camera angles changing. Also, you guys won't know this because of high-level editing, but I've been kicked out of this podcast like 7 times because of connection issues. So now that we have got connection issues, we've got camera issues, we've got a wasp in the room. Things are getting really interesting. Things are getting really interesting. And my next guy, I think, is somebody who you would not have expected or really thought about, and that is Ryan Rollins.
No, I swear, Ryan Rollins is one of the names I almost put down. Heck yeah, go ahead.
Ryan Rollins, basically for the entire first couple of years of his young career, this is going to be year 4 for him. So years, we'll say 2.5, kind of fighting for a roster spot or like a role, like fighting to just find a spot in the league. And he finally found a role for the Bucks at the end of last season, just like as this like 3-and-D type of guard. Playing lower minutes. But now with Dame out of the picture, there's a vacant point guard spot. And Kevin Porter Jr. is probably going to be the immediate starter. But it's like Ryan Rollins has a real opportunity to solidify himself as a starting point guard in the NBA. And I think he really has the tools. Like I'm a huge fan of Ryan Rollins. Like I said, 23 years old, entering year 4. This is a 6'3" guard who has a 6'10" wingspan. Think about that for a second. 6'3" with a 6'10" wingspan. Really already a really good point of attack defender. Between the agility to stick with the ball, he kind of only guards 1s and 2s, but as just a backcourt point of attack defender. Agility, ability to navigate screens, huge defensive playmaker with the way he uses his length and hands to pick up steals and deflections. Just like already a strong positive defensive player. Also, one of a few small guards in the whole league who can legitimately protect the rim. Like actual vertical presence as a 2-foot leaper with his length at the rim, playing cleanup. To me, the only real thing he needs to really improve to become just a household name on defense is the activity as a help defender. When he's in position at the rim, legitimate vertical presence, but like he's also the type of guy that isn't always going to be just like in the right spot at the right time, like one of those like high IQ super good help defenders. But like, yeah, this is kind of the ideal guard you want next to Giannis defensively. Someone who can stick with his matchup, navigate screens, play cleanup at the rim when needed. Ryan Rollins, just really, really good defender. The question is, how much is there offensively? Because this is a guy who has like pretty good indicators as a passer. Like his assist rate out of drives is really good. Good transition creator. Gets to the rim at a decent rate, makes quick decisions off the catch. The question is, how real is the shooting? I believe he shot like 41% from 3 last year, but it was only like 100 attempts. And we all know like three-point shooting can usually take like 200, 300 attempts to stabilize. So like how real is the 3-point shooting is one of the big questions. And then how much punch is there when the ball is actually in his hands as a creator? Like, can he be a dynamic pick and roll shot creator? Can he get to the rim from a standstill? Things like that. Can he add a floater? I'm such a sucker for floaters. Like, if you can add a floater, you're just automatically a much better player, in my opinion. Also, like, doesn't really get to the line or doesn't finish at the rim at a really high rate. But, like, in terms of just the floor with him offensively, if the 3-point shooting is real, just such a nice off-the-catch guy because of the explosiveness to get to the rim. Legitimate guy who's like, he catches the ball in the slot or catches the ball in the corner. And you have to make a decision. Are you going to let me take this open 3 or are you going to let me blow by you? And then I not only have the verticality to finish at the rim, I have the passing, the decision making to then connect the offense off of these off-the-catch advantage creation situations. I think if he adds, like I said, a floater or even just a mid-range pull-up, just somewhat of an in-between scoring game, this is a guy who's just has so much offensive utility because of the athleticism, because of the shooting that to this point I'm going to trust. And then, of course, just has the potential to be one of the better defensive guards in the league. In my opinion, this is a guy who has serious two-way potential and is really kind of the ideal guard you'd want next to Giannis long term.
Yeah. With Ryan Rollins, and to your point, like, yeah, he shot 123s last season, hit 41% of them. I'm sorry, 40.8% of them last season. Now could be a per 100 demon because per 100 took 7 threes per 100 possession last season. It honestly is a weird year because he only played in 56 games. He played like 820 minutes, which is like, that's got to be less than 20 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So I do like the shout though, because like you said, I think there is a lot of two-way potential with Ryan Rollins. As a matter of fact, like even in the playoffs, in 30 minutes in 3 games, so we're just gonna call it 10 minutes a game. Actually, I don't know why I'm saying we're gonna call it 10 minutes when that's
what it is.
That's factually 10 minutes. All right. 11 threes, almost 12 threes per 100 possessions in the playoffs. So now the playoffs shot 29% from 3, but we'll go with the regular season non-heave 3 number, which is 41.3%.
I want to ask you before we move on, what's his total career 3-point attempts and percentage? Because maybe that's the best indicator we can get right now. Because he's got to have attempted like 200 something threes overall.
No, he's attempted 133 threes his career.
Yes. Yeah, there's not much to work with. So I would say that's really the big question mark is like, is he actually a 40% or even like 37, 38% shooter?
Yeah. Because you look at the current iteration of the Bucks, and it's yeesh. Kind of need Ryan Rollins to be maybe not even like the A+ outcome of what Tyler was talking about, but at least like hitting a decent middle ground where, look, I am this 36 to 37% 3-point guy on high volume that is still providing all these other variables that, you know, whether it's the secondary, like the weak side help or the point of attack defense, still adding a floater, which apparently will turn him into Jalen Brunson. That's what Tyler said, not me.
I'm an absolute sicko, by the way. Like, remember the Bucks talk we had in the last episode where I was like, Giannis MVP, they're just going to lead him as a full-time point guard. Like, I might be an absolute sicko, but if Rollins pans out kind of like in the way I'm talking about, Rollins, AJ Green, Prince, Giannis, Turner, to me, that's a really good team in my opinion. I'm a sicko. Like, that's a good team.
I think I have been lower on Milwaukee. So I mean, I do think I like was too low on them, so I went back and kind of bumped them up a little bit. But
nice.
Yeah, you're welcome. I blame you. I'm gonna blame you.
I pipeline from like on Twitter being a Bucks hater, Giannis hater, who only talks negatively about Giannis, which never happened, but whatever. To now being just ridiculously high on the current iteration of the Bucks is a nice little evolution. Sorry to cut you off though. You were making a point.
No. I think Rollins low key, and I hate to do this with every role player like I just did with Da Silva, but Rollins like low key could be a swing factor for Milwaukee in general this season. Like if he could be again a nice middle ground of what Tyler's got talking about, just gives you another real player and probably your starting point guard. Even though like I do agree with Tyler that like the vision should just be just give Giannis the ball, put 3 to 4 40+ % 3-point shooters around him, and that team is gonna guaranteed 45 wins. Guaranteed.
Yeah, dude. Because Rollins, if he is a 40% 3-point shooter, him, Green, Turner's the lowest percentage 3-point shooter in that starting lineup outside of Giannis.
It's what, like 36%?
Yeah, 36, 37%. And then also that's like from above the break too.
Yeah. Straight above the break.
Straight above the break. That's really and also
Milwaukee.
That's not am I crazy? That's not a terrible defensive starting 5. Like if Rollins is your point of attack guy, you've got Giannis and Turner as your cleanup rim protectors.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah. If you're Milwaukee, how are you like, this is turning into a Milwaukee conversation. Are you positioning Miles Turner in the slot or in the corner?
Slot for sure.
Okay.
100% the slot. And I'd actually do probably a lot of pick and pop stuff with him and Giannis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or him and Rollins. Like maybe
agree.
the development for Rollins as a shot creator is having a pop guy like Turner to really like help him turn the corner.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair. Good shout. Good shout. I did think about Ryan Rollins.
Ryan Rollins, man. I'm glad you thought about him. That's a guy that I really like Ryan Rollins. Who was your fourth guy?
So I don't know how, I don't know what breakout means for this specific player. And by the way, after this, I just have a bunch of guys that in the right situation, I can very clearly see it happening. And maybe this is just a cheap way to get me to talk about one of my favorite teams from the offseason. But I think he has a lot of... It's Zaccharie Risacher. I don't know why I was taking so long to get into it. Superpower is very clearly... I think he is such a versatile offensive chess piece that to the point where it's a superpower. Where spot up demon, elite cutter, good at transition, can make plays off the catch. And the vision with Risacher is, honestly, now we're just putting more good players next to him. Not in the sense that we're taking touches away from him, but he would be like the volume breakout where he goes from 10 to 12 points per game to 17 points a game.
You're cooking. I didn't even think about this. You're cooking right now. Keep going.
Because again, just elite feel in terms of awareness away from the ball next to Trey. And honestly, I maybe kind of critiqued them last year when they made the pick for Risacher, but with the benefit of hindsight, that was only because I loved Sarr a little bit more, and I Risacher. No, it was because I liked Holland technically more than Risacher. That's what it was. But with Risacher, if you're picking a wing to put next to Trae Young, I'm probably picking Zaccharie Risacher. Like I said, this ultra feel guy shot 36% on spot up threes, 35% in transition last season. They utilized him in some ways. Quinn Snyder also, and we've said this a lot on the pod. Quinn Snyder doesn't get enough credit for how good of an offensive coach he is. I think we think about Quinn Snyder teams sometimes and think about those Jazz defenses with him and Rudy are really cheap Rudy Gobert pop for Tyler.
Nice.
But
now you're really cooking.
And the Oscar goes to. I think the biggest things with Risacher, can we be even a better three-point shooter? Can we get up closer to 38% from three going into this upcoming season? And can we do more off the dribble in terms of attacking defenses and getting to the rim consistently? But otherwise, the shots translates. I think he's also continues to project to be a really, really high-level defensive player as well, to be a 3-and-D or a two-way player in general. Really the vision is for Risacher is the fact that, hey, look, I get it, we're adding better players around him, but in a way that is actually going to help him, and he's going to be the volume breakout heading into next season.
Yeah, you really cooked on that one. Risacher wasn't even on my radar, and where you really hit the nail on the head was, the good players.
He has a floater.
He has a floater, he does. It was the good players argument, because this is a guy who's already, as a rookie, was one of the most dynamic off-ball scorers in the league. He's got the size and athleticism to play from the baseline, in the dunker. He can play in the dunker. He can get on the offensive glass. He can get up above the rim as a finisher. He can play out of the corner as a spot-up shooter. He can play out of the slot as a spot-up shooter. He can attack closeouts. He can play off of screens. He can play in transition. He's basically, like you said, made in a lab to play off of Trae Young as this off-ball scorer. So then you get a healthy Jalen Johnson. You get a full season of Okongwu, who, by the way, their offense was just so much more versatile once he was in place of Capella because of the fact that he's a good passer and he can initiate delay action, all this stuff, which is where Risacher is going to eat. I really like that shout. I think Risacher, I don't every time I kind of project Risacher, looking forward and just the Hawks in general, I don't really see Risacher as a guy who ever adds on-ball juice. I don't see this superstar ceiling with him. I just see him continuously building around what he already has. He's this dynamic off-ball scorer and defensive athlete. And it's this is a guy who can one day be a really, really good two-way supporting player for any star. A 2 or a 3. With just enough off-the-catch utility to not be one-dimensional. To not be reliant on someone to create easy shots for him. I really like that shout, and I don't really have much to add. What do you I guess I want to ask you, what do you think about Risacher's defense? Because I do think that's like kind of every time I watch him, it's like a gray area. It's like I don't really know what to make of Risacher's defense.
I will just say this: I need to watch more of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And honestly, Atlanta's putting a really good defensive team around him and Trey. Like if they go, I don't know what they'll do with the starting lineup this year. I'd assume it's Porzingis at the 5 and then Okongwu off the bench, but I'd also assume they're going to do a lot of double big stuff because Okongwu's a switch everything big, and Porzingis is obviously a floor spacer, so the double big units are going to be nasty. Like I'm thinking, like you can put Risacher in lineups with like Dyson at the 1, Risacher at the 2, then Jalen, Okongwu, and Porzingis. Like that's a legitimate,
Filthy.
viable lineup. With, I mean, now you're matching Houston in terms of size and versatility.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atlanta in general, like even just past the Risacher conversation, we've had this combo. Atlanta's absolutely cooking. We both love what they're doing. So yeah, I really like the Risacher shout. I wasn't expecting it at all, but that's an awesome shout. I've got 2 guys left for today's list, and I'm kind of trying to decide which direction I want to go in. We'll go. I'll go to another team that's kind of in a similar line of thinking with Atlanta. They've got a young lead guard. They're in the East. They've got a young lead guard who looks like a superstar or emerging superstar. All of these nice pieces. They've built an identity. They just had a playoff exit in the first round of New York.
Oh, okay.
The Detroit Pistons is where I'm going with this. And I want you to actually guess who I'm going to go with because there's a lot of guys.
Jalen Duren.
Not Jalen Duren. Not Jalen Duren. That's a good shout, though. We talked about him off screen. It's not Jalen Duren. It's not Asar Thompson because I know that's your next guess. I want to talk about Jaden Ivey.
I had Ivy. I basically had Ivy as like he was hurt, but like when he was healthy, he's awesome.
So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about because I wanted to talk about like the 30 games before he got hurt and like talk about what's real, where he can still go from here. Because Ivy's breakout kind of did start. Like his at least breakout from the former level he was at. Obviously he didn't become this all-star, but Jaden Ivey kind of had like half of a breakout and then it was cut short by injury. And I think like this next year will kind of be like, where is he at? Like, can he keep building off of that to keep taking that next leap? As of right now, the last version of Ivy we saw was this super nice off guard slashing weapon next to Cade. Like you put him in the slot, one pass away, he's just gonna burn aggressive defenses, like aggressive gap help with his ability to slash past defenders off the catch. He gets to the rim a lot, he draws fouls. He actually has a floater. Yes, he has a floater. And one of my questions for him in like my swing skills categories, can he improve it? He attempted 2 floaters a game last year and made 44% of them. Can we get that up to like 3 or 4 a game at 46%, for example? I need a little bit more. Also a legitimately good secondary playmaker in those off the catch situations or even like as a pick and roll creator or in early offense transition. Nice passer, like can make nice passes, especially like downhill drive and kick, can do all that type of stuff. I have a few questions though. Was the shooting real? This is the big one because last season he shot 41% from 3 on 5 attempts a game. If he is legitimately like Ryan Rollins we talked about, if he's legitimately a 40% 3-point shooter with the slashing, with the secondary playmaking, he's just simply one of the best off guards in the league offensively because next to a lead ball handler, there's nothing you could have more valuable in the slot than someone besides like an outright star. If it's like a superstar, like obviously when Luka had Kyrie one pass away, obviously that's like ideal. But the next best thing is someone who's a threat to make 40% of their threes from the slot, but then also will burn closeouts or aggressive help with their ability to get to the rim and then draw fouls or make plays. Jaden Ivey projects, if he's that good of a shooter, projects to just be a world-class off guard. The other problem I kind of have with Ivy, and this is one I actually want you to look at because you can pull up quickly the split between the bad pass and live ball. Ivy's very turnover prone for the role that he plays. And I do worry like how much of that can be fixed. Like I think he was like 4 assists to 3 turnovers per game. For someone who's not a lead ball handler, that's a pretty steep turnover ratio. That's one thing I worry about moving forward. Did you pull that up? You got that up?
So yeah, like 3.9, basically 4 assists per game last season versus 2.9, basically 3 turnovers game last season. And if you go per 100, then it's 6.5 to 4.9. If we're going per 100 possessions, the 4.9 turnovers, 3 of them are live ball turnovers. About 1.8, 1.9 of them are dead ball turnovers. Almost 1.3. So this is kind of the concerning part, like metrically. 1.3 out of those turnovers are lost ball turnovers, and then 1.7 are bad pass turnovers, which he's actually kind of worked on that because bad pass was 2.1 rookie year, 1.6, and 1.7.
Okay. So, yeah, the lost ball stuff is what worries me because if he's not a lead guard.
Career high in lost ball turnovers.
Yeah, so if he's not a lead guard, if he's going to be like an off-catch guy, the turnovers are concerning because you need someone who can be like, if Cade's a high turnover guy, but and a lot of his are also lost ball. But the thing with Cade is he's your lead guard. If he's going to handle the ball 90 times a game, he's going to turn it over 4 or 5 times. That's fine. You can't have Cade then kicking it to a guy who's going to add 3 more turnovers. That's kind of the problem. So I think the biggest swing skill for him is ball security. And then also the other side of that is he's probably going to be your stagger guy, right? When Cade goes to the bench, Ivey then becomes your lead ball handler because of his slashing, because of his playmaking. So you need a guy who's going to take good care of the ball. So I do think the biggest swing skill for him is the ball security. I think if he can cut that down to 2 turnovers or even just like 2.2, 2.3 turnovers a game, that would be more than ideal. The other thing is how much juice is there defensively with Ivey? Because if he's your main guy in the backcourt next to Cade, that means he's at least your first or second guy at the point of attack. I'd assume Asar is in that starting 5 too. So Asar's your point of attack guy, and then Ivey's your second guy for guards. He's got the physical tools, right? Sturdy build, freak athleticism, another guy with a 6'10" wingspan, so tons of length. It really is just like buy-in and then technique to navigate screens, do all that good stuff. And I think we kind of saw shades of that last year. Like, I don't think he was by any means a bad defender. I think he was actually pretty solid. And if you can get him to buy into this like defensive dynamo off-guard role, really fits Detroit's identity, really fits next to Cade and Asar. I'd also like to see maybe some more defensive playmaking. Like, he doesn't pick up a lot of deflections and steals for how much length he does have. That's one of the leaps we saw from Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell coming into the league wasn't much of a defensive playmaker. Nowadays, you can chalk him in for a steal and a half and two, 3 deflections on that Cleveland defense, just being aggressive as the low man. I think Ivey can do some of that with the defensive playmaking. And then if he just buys in as your point of attack defender, I think Ivey has serious all-star potential, but not as like a lead offensive guy. It would be more in that off-ball. Honestly, this might sound crazy, but the more I'm kind of talking myself into it, Ivey kind of like the ideal projection is kind of like a guard Jaylen Brown. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, Jaylen Brown was a high turnover guy, kind of still is for his role, but next to Tatum, he was just this slashing demon, getting to the line, getting to the rim, getting to the mid-range. I'd say Ivey hopefully is a better three-point shooter than Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown can step out and knock the three-point shot at volume. And then just this otherworldly defensive versatility that then gives you a guy who can look like a number 1 on certain nights, but is more so a number 2 on most nights. I think that'd be the ideal projection. Like, if everything goes right for Jaden Ivey, we get a 6'3" Jaylen Brown.
So, I mean, man, the comparisons are off the charts. Filipowski's Jokic. I already forgot all of them. Filipowski's Jokic. Deni's Giannis. Ryan Rollins is a floater away from being Jalen Brunson.
That was you. I did not say that. It's funny because Ryan Rollins is a defensive player, so why is he Jalen Brunson?
I don't know. Yeah, no. I'm glad you brought up Ivey. Only reason I didn't bring him up was because I was like, I think.
I was going to say, I know you're high on Ivey, so there's got to be a reason you're not talking about him.
No, I love Ivey. And then last, I'm honestly just going to roll off a few names because I don't really have a like locked in 5th guy. But I do want to roll off a few names. Noah Clowney from Brooklyn. Awesome. Love his fit next to.
Not to cut you off, but I had Day'Ron Sharp as one of my like.
Their big rotation's fun.
Yeah, it is.
I had Bryce Sensabaugh that we already talked about. Taylor Hendricks, I already brought up earlier. I think this one is more so because I think they see something in him, and it's like they're gonna almost force it to happen in a weird way. Like Nikola Jovic, well, I think
I have him. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yes. I like Jovic. I think they also really, really like Jovic. So that's why I said I think we're going to see the opportunity for it to happen, if that makes sense. Rob Dillingham, another one. Terrence Shannon also in a similar light, but specifically Rob Dillingham. I had Jabari Smith as, okay, cool. Let's get the full package this year. And then last one, this was the guy I was talking about off air or off camera, that this is more reputation breakout, was DeAndre Ayton. Because I think reputation-wise, his reputation sucks, but he's actually a good basketball player.
I love it.
But then now I'm gonna be right back here this time next year, irritated at the DeAndre conversation for a different reason, because now it's gonna be a massive overreaction when he has a good year. It's like, oh my god, wait, he's this all-star plus player. Like, no, he's a good player. He's been a good player. And we just overreacted. Y'all just overreacted.
So before the playoffs, the big conversation was Reeves or Halliburton. But in the Lakers. So who's the Ayton? Who do you think Ayton is? It like Ayton or Mobley? Like Ayton's better than Mobley? Is that the conversation? Or Jaren Jackson Jr. or something like that?
Right now or like this time next year?
I'm saying this time next year. It's
gonna be Ayton and Jackson because of the contract Jackson just got.
Yeah, and same draft class too, right? Aren't they both 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, it was him, Bagley, Luka, or Trey Luka, however that works.
Yep.
And Jaren. Who is 6? Is that Dragon Bender?
I could not tell you.
Is that
I think
the
Dragon
year?
Bender was before that. I thought Bender was like 2016.
Yeah, he's 16. My bad. Who's 6?
I don't know.
6 is not memorable. Must have been a bust.
Let's see. I'm about to look it up. 2018 NBA draft. Number 6 pick was Mo Bamba, dude.
Oh, yeah, Orlando.
Mo Bamba. And then it was Wendell Carter Jr., Colin Sexton, Kevin Knox, Mikal Bridges,
Isn't this the Shea? Yeah.
Yep, Miles Bridges, Michael Porter Jr., DiVincenzo's down there, Grayson Allen's down there, Kevin Huerter's down there, Anthony Simons 24th, Mo Wagner 25th, Rob Williams 27th. Yo, low key a stacked draft class, dude.
Yeah.
I'm rocking with 2018.
We always say about 18 because of Luka Trey, and then just forget that Shea is like the 13th pick in this draft.
Yeah. So I'll throw a couple other names I had listed, and then I'll get to my number 5. I agreed with a couple of yours. I also had, again, I don't really know if this is a breakout or more so just like establishing himself, so I didn't include him on my actual list. But Keon Ellis is a guy who I think like
Keon's awesome.
Like everyone says fake 3-and-D. Keon Ellis is like a legit volume efficient 3-point shooter who's also a great defender. So it's like Keon Ellis is just such an obviously good player, and I think the breakout would more so be just him establishing himself as that. Jaden McDaniels is a guy I kind of had jotted down because like he kind of started to break out offensively in the later part
for the third straight year in a row.
Yep, last regular season, second half. Maybe there's more offensive supremacy for him this year. Khalil Ware is a guy.
Khalil Ware, yeah.
Who I really like, and I think like just has a very obviously the way I kind of describe Khalil Ware to people who really aren't familiar with this game is I kind of just like to label him Derek Lively plus. Like I just view him as lively with a little bit more. Like specifically the 3-ball is kind of like the plus. So there's more that he can add as a passer, and then like the post game is really raw, and it's like if Khalil Ware becomes a legitimately good post scorer, that's just a very clear awesome player. Another guy I had, which was kind of similar to the Nembhard conversation, is Mathurin. I do think there's like a gaping like gap in the roster without Halliburton where it's like someone's going to have to fill this scoring pressure. And Mathurin kind of had those flashes, specifically during the finals, where it's like you can really see there's something there. There's just a lot that needs to go right for Mathurin on both ends of the floor for him to really establish himself as a really nice supporting player. But I had a stat pulled up that like I can't stop looking at because of how unreal it is. And we talk about a superpower, right? I want you to take a guess. Mathurin's free throw attempts per 75 possessions in the playoffs. A finals run. Free throw attempts per 75.
It's going to be insane. Give me 11.5.
That's insane.
Okay.
It's 9.8 though.
Okay, I wasn't that
like, dude,
off.
10 free throw attempts per 75 for a third or fourth year player in a finals run is unfathomably good. Like for people who aren't familiar with like per 75 numbers, that's like the rate that Shea, Giannis, Zion, Embiid, basically draw fouls at in the playoffs. So Mathurin has this clear superpower where it's like, I'm going to generate a boatload of free throws. And the question is, what else is there? Like, what's the in-between scoring look like? What's the three-point shooting look like? How much defensive utility is there? I think Ben Mathurin has a real chance. And this kind of feels like the make or break here, where it's like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. Jalen Johnson, we talked about off screen a little bit. Didn't include him because it's kind of just like an obvious injury thing. I already mentioned Daron Sharp. Jalen Suggs was another guy kind of
another injury thing though.
Yep, another injury guy.
And like it's 2023 or 4 or whatever. Is that legit?
Max Christie was a guy I kind of had listed. I think he can, like, how much of that mid-range leap from last year is real was kind of my question, because he kind of started to break out a little bit for Dallas once he got a little bit more of an offensive role. And it's like, you already have the point of attack stuff. You have the off the catch stuff. How much is there really for Max Christie as a shot creator?
Cook.
Some other guys I won't really go into, but just kind of had on my list. Davion Mitchell, Deuce McBride, Jarris Walker, Onyeka Okongwu. I think Onyeka Okongwu I'm really high on, actually. I think there's a lot there. And then Moses Moody was another guy that I kind of thought about. My number 5 was actually Terrence Shannon Jr., so you kind of briefly mentioned him.
Oh, hey, there we go.
I don't really think there's too much to talk about here. Like, he was a rookie who didn't play many games, was low minute, barely got any playoff run, had like these stretches where he came in as like a dynamo off the bench in the Western Conference Finals against an OKC defense and looked like a superhuman slasher. And that's basically my whole selling point, is like, you look at some of these drives, that's not normal stuff. Like, in the half court, from a standstill, off the catch, in transition, this guy gets all the way to the rim, like, basically whenever he wants. And it's just like, what else is there to his game? What is there defensively? Can he develop a 3-ball? To me, guess what I think the biggest swing skill for Terrence Shannon Jr. is? Take a wild guess.
Oh, floater.
The floater. He doesn't have a floater. He attempted 0.3 floaters a game last year and made like 38% of them. He gets to the rim literally at will. If he adds a floater, just that instantly makes him an NBA player, because it's just so valuable to be that good of a slasher. And like I said, we saw it in the conference finals. OKC's defense looked impenetrable. Terrence Shannon Jr. comes into the game in these like second quarter situations and will just get like 4 layups in a row and then draw a foul or draw 2 fouls. I think he's another guy who had a really high free throw rate in the playoffs in isolated minutes. So Terrence Shannon Jr. to me, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I just wanted to shout him out as just like, the slashing is not normal for a first-year player.
I thought they had one of the best, if not the best, draft classes last year because of Shannon Jr. and because of Rob. So, no, nothing to add. Just, like you said, dynamo athlete off the bench. And I think Minnesota's going to lean into both him and Rob off the bench this year. I think Rob specifically, and the argument for Rob for me would have been, like, Conley's been ancient. Like, he's ancient as hell. You need somebody, and they very clearly, I think, drafted and traded up so many spots and gave up their future, 2031 first, I guess, to unprotected to get Rob, because I think they eyed Rob as the point guard of the future post Mike Conley. You can't have Sir Michael here forever. So I think he's another example of potential breakouts, simply because I think we're going to see him get the touches to get the opportunity to prove himself next year.
Yeah, Minnesota's absolutely cooking. I'm going to completely butcher this name. I'm going to try my best. I believe it's pronounced Zohan Berenze.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good pronunciation.
Is that good? Is that good?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but that sounds right.
In the summer league, like, the few flashes I saw from his first game as a rim protector, like, dude, Minnesota might be cooking. Yeah. Minnesota might. To get him as, I think it was 17th in the draft. Yeah, they might be cooking. But are there any other names that, like, you kind of thought about that are just, like, in the air, like, just like in any capacity?
Yeah, man. You know, LeBron Kevin Durant.
Yeah. James Harden might have a breakout year.
I mean, I think he just had his breakout year, though. You know what I'm saying?
He low-key did.
Embiid coming back healthy. I actually I do think Embiid's, like, criminally underrated now.
I agree. I hope he's back to normal. I hope he's back, because he's such a crazy player. Let me
just
ask you
think some of those quotes from the article. I haven't read the article yet about him to like drop today, but like some of those quotes they say are like so depressing.
The only quote I saw was the one about playoff dropper. How he was like, if I coast the entire season and then average 30 in the playoffs, I'll be viewed as a playoff player. Yeah. Joel Jordan.
So I didn't see that. I saw the Harden one, and I saw the one about dang, there's another one. I just forget. It wasn't that one though, but my bad. Go ahead.
Also, another guy like Paul George. Paul George could have a really good bounce back year, I think. With everyone healthy. Philly,
well, he just had surgery.
Philly's cooking, man. If they're healthy, which is like the biggest if in sports, but if they're healthy and everyone's normal, like Philly's kind of cooking. Let me ask you this. We talked about all these breakout candidates. If you were forced to put your money on one guy for most improved player right now, way too early, who would it be?
This is so cheating, but Jalen Johnson. That's cheating.
Dude, he's been dude. I think it's the funniest thing ever that Jalen Johnson in year 3 was running away with most improved, then got hurt, so he wasn't eligible. Then in year 4, he was just a slightly improved version of year 3, but then he was by far the betting favorite again because everyone was like, well, we'll just give it to him this year. And then he got hurt again. So how many times can that happen? How many times can he get that, like I don't know. I think
he's going to enter the year like Wemby last year.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like okay, look, if you just stay healthy, this award's yours kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think, I don't really know which direction I'd go in. Oh, yeah, another guy I had kind of listed was Scoot Henderson as like a potential, like, now that Anthony Simons is out, he's your only backcourt guy, kind of. Well, not only, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'd bet on for most improved because the way the criteria works is really weird. Like, I want to go with one of these like sub all-star level players who just takes an all-star leap. That kind of is like where the most improved thing lies. So like Asar or Amen Thompson kind of feels like a really big potential pick for me. Because one of those guys becoming an all-star I think would move the needle. Nembhard's another guy if he takes the leap we talked about. Deni Avdija I think is a good one. Like if he becomes an all-star, I think he could win most improved. Jaden McDaniels, same thing. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm looking at like the full list of every player I had because I don't want to go with one of these young guys like a Kyle Filipowski. Like if he breaks out in year 2, I don't think he'll get it in year 2. That never really happens. It'll be interesting. I don't even know who I'd pick. I'd say I'm gonna go Sar Thompson. Because I think there's a very real pathway where like they lean into him as a ball handler more. Since Schroeder left. And then if Asar can take a serious offensive leap, I think Asar has potential to be an all-star in the East. Much easier than Amen has a chance to be an all-star in the West, if that makes sense. But yeah, no, I'm so excited for the upcoming season. Dude, I feel like we do this every year, but like I had so much fun covering last season. That was the most fun I've ever had covering an NBA season. And I'm more excited for this year with the way the teams and everything is shaping up. Yeah, dude, I'm excited, man.
I'm pumped. I'm very juiced up.
Very pumped. That's why we're the most consistent podcast on the internet. Once every month, we come together and
we'll see you guys on September 1st.
Exactly. We will see you at the start of the preseason. No, in all seriousness, we really appreciate you guys listening. If you made it all the way through, make sure to follow us on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI and on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. He's on YouTube at the Sports Headline Show and the Los Angeles Lakers Network. Actually, I meant to ask you, is the Sports Headline Show channel still up?
Yeah.
Because I looked it up the other day and it did not come up. So I don't know if I typed it in wrong, or if you just fell off. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but the Sports Headline Show on YouTube. Let's get that back up on the searches. Of course, I'm on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. On Hoop Venue, that's my main content platform. There we go, the Sports Headline Show. I definitely just typed something in wrong.
Awful podcasting.
Terrible podcasting. I'm actually just the entire goal of this podcast is just to downplay Sean's success in the content creation space. And then on my personal stuff, Tyler Britton _ on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. Like I said, if you're listening on Spotify, 5-star rating, very much appreciated. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We really appreciate all of the support, and we will catch you guys next time for episode number 56.